How does someone with very little self-confidence and who is also very shy then go on to become a radio and TV presenter, hosting their own live radio show, interviewing royals, Oscar-winning actors and musical superstars, as well as presenting shows in front of thousands of people and eventually moving to another country? My name is Simon Baldock and this podcast is called Tales from a Very Minor Celebrity. This is the story of how I conquered my insecurities and went on to have a 35-year career in broadcasting both in the UK and in Spain. You'll hear some of my most memorable interviews, one of which was featured on Radio 4's Pick of the Week, and all the adventures I've had both in the UK and Spain, and the stories behind them. Like the time I delivered half a carcass of beef to Margaret Thatcher at 10 Downing Street, and the time I carried £1 million worth of diamonds on the tube in an old Sainsbury's bag on the way to a photo shoot with Lord Snowdon at the Ritz. This week's episode is a bit of a golf fest, but don't worry, if you're not a golf lover, you'll still enjoy these stories from some very interesting and entertaining guests. You'll hear first from the late Tim Brooke Taylor, who told me about the time he played with Seve Ballesteros in a celebrity pro-am tournament. Then an interview with Peter Allis on how he went from being a professional golfer to become the face and voice of golf on BBC TV. He's followed by two singing legends who, like me, love playing golf, Michael Bolton and Englebert Humperdinck. And finally, Bernard Gallacher, who gave me a golf lesson when we met at a new driving range. Being a very minor celebrity, I've been invited on occasion to take part in some charity golf matches, which were always great fun and which raised much needed money for worthwhile causes. But TV and radio personality Tim Brooke Taylor, who sadly died from COVID in 2020, used to get over 100 invites every year, and sometimes he also got to play alongside some golfing legends as well. Widely known to the public for his work on BBC Radio with I'm Sorry, I'll Read That Again, Tim Brooke Taylor moved into television with At Last, the 1948 show, working with his old Cambridge mates John Cleese and Graham Chapman. Then with Graham Garden and Bill Oddie, he starred of course in The Goodies from 1970 to 1982, picking up international recognition in Australia, Canada and New Zealand. He also appeared as an actor in various sitcoms and was a panellist on BBC Radio's I'm Sorry, I Haven't a Clue for almost 50 years. His interest in golf really took a hold when he took part in the Pro Celebrity Golf television series opposite Bruce Forsyth and appeared in the first episode of the BBC's short-lived golf-based game show Full Swing. He told me why so many celebrities take up the game.
I've taken it seriously about 20-odd years. By seriously, I mean I've had lessons, I've got my own clubs,
Yes.
And I've got a handicap, I suppose, is the main thing.
We better ask you, what is the handicap?
It's 12.3. It's quite a nice handicap because really good golfers know that you're not rubbish.
Yes.
And people that are rubbish know you're not frightening. So it's quite nice for everybody else.
Absolutely. And a lot of people in your profession take up golf. Why is that, do you think?
Well, I've often wondered about that. I think partly because certainly originally the sort of variety performers used to do summer seasons and they did 2 shows in the evening and had the days free and quite often by the sea in good courses. So they played. I think also, like there's a stage golfing society, there are a lot of actors out of work, unfortunately, too long and too often.
Yeah.
And I think that's that moment, get them out of the pub and get onto the course is a very much better idea.
And again, someone in your position, I suppose, gets invited to a lot of these celebrity golf matches.
Yes. In fact, I worked out last year that I was asked to play in 130.
Gee whiz.
And actually they're great fun because us so-called celebrities turn up for nothing, and the people pay to play with you, and it's usually a very, very good cause. And it's they've discovered that pro-ams, they had to pay the pros, so now they've realised celebrity ams are better for the charity.
And talking of pro-ams, you must have been involved in a few of those.
Yeah.
Who are some of the most well-known golfers? You know, who have you played with and thought, oh God, that's fantastic, my hero?
Well, I think I've played with some really good ones, but the one I really liked most was Seve Ballesteros. He was just one of those people that, you know, you wonder if the charisma is as real as the pictures,
Yes.
and it was. I mean, the frightening thing, of course, is that I was playing at Woburn, this was, and there were large crowds. It was the Dunhill Masters, and I didn't know who the pro was going to be. There were two amateurs, me, the so-called celebrity, and we didn't know. And suddenly a girl ran up and said, "We're going to play with Mr. Ballesteros." And I just didn't know what to do. I had that sort of strange mixed feelings. I want to play with him, but all these mixed feelings. I always just remember was mixed feelings was seeing your mother-in-law drive a brand new car over a cliff, and that's how I felt. But he was just very, very special, I think. And
yes.
He had that sort of aggression and take a risk. And there was a moment when I got quite cocky with him, and I said, "Oh, great shot, Seve." And he turned around, "No, Tom," he said, "not good with knives." "Hey, no, it's not great. It's good, but it's not." And you suddenly realise these guys, they're playing at such a high level. They hit what you would think would be the best shot in your life. It's just not quite good enough.
Now, Peter Allis, who also sadly passed away in 2020 at the age of 89, was a professional golfer, television presenter, commentator, author and golf course designer. He was regarded by many as the voice of golf, and in 2012 he was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame in the Lifetime Achievement category. I spoke to him in early 2000 and he told me how he broke into TV presenting.
I felt I'd been robbed of victory by a certain Australian called Kel Nagle. I was reciting to my colleagues on the flight back, an Aer Lingus flight from Dublin to London, what had happened, and I didn't think anything more about it. And 2 weeks later I got a letter from the BBC Manchester, a fellow called Ray Lakeland, who was the producer of rugby, cricket, golf in that area. And he said he was listening to me reminiscing and about what had happened that week, and he'd enjoyed what I said, and would I be interested in taking part in the Open Championship the following year at Royal Birkdale, 1961. And I said, "Well, I'm fine, but I'm playing." And he said, "Well, if you play in the afternoon, come up in the morning," and vice versa. And I did. And I went along, and I was fascinated by the whole thing. I mean, not as sophisticated as now, but there seemed to be hundreds of miles of cable, a very crude studio. And our Steve Rider of the day was Cliff Mitchelmore. And we had Bill Cox, a professional from Fulwell in Essex, and Henry Longhurst, and John Jacobs, and Ben Wright, who now lives in the States. They were the commentary team, and I just joined in and told them that the greens were too quick or too slow or whatever, and that was the start of it.
And what do you think the secret is of being a good golf commentator?
I think you've got to get the people involved. You've got to become friends with them at the other end of on the other end of the line that's sitting at home. It's almost as if you're there talking with them just on a one-to-one basis, I think.
Englebert Humperdinck and Michael Bolton are both avid golfers, as I found out when I interviewed them both. Born in 1936, Englebert Humperdinck has been described as one of the finest middle-of-the-road balladeers around. He achieved international prominence in 1967 with the hit single Release Me. Humperdinck's recordings of Release Me and The Last Waltz both topped the UK singles charts in 1967, selling more than 1 million copies each. Humperdinck continues to perform, having sold more than 140 million records worldwide. But as he told me when we met, when he needs time off to relax, it's golf that he turns to.
I love my golf. Avid golfer. I'm always buying new gadgets of the television, Hopefully that it's going to improve my game. It never does, but I mean, I play a fair game, but I'm not a professional standard. I did beat Tiger Woods once, though.
You're joking.
Yeah, he was 5 years old, but I gave him a terrific game.
And you must have played some of the best courses in the world.
That's one of the stipulations of my contracts as I travel around, that they make sure that I play on all good courses all over the place, wherever I go. Wow. And it's amazing, like for instance, I played I was in Kuala Lumpur not so long ago, and I played in a place called Genting, and the course was cut out of the jungle.
Wow.
Oh yeah, you hit a ball in the rough there, you do not go and collect it.
Yeah. I bet there's not many people walking around with those little nets, collecting all the spare balls.
No, there's not many people doing
that. Not out there. And any plans to slow down at all?
I should imagine I do 140 concerts a year now, but I think maybe next year I'll cut it down to about 100.
Give yourself a bit of a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about holidays? You know, where was your last holiday?
And you know what I do? I was in. Whenever I go to foreign countries, I have few days in between where we can see the countries a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of holidays I like. But my favorite holidays, of course, are in Hawaii or in the Caribbean. This year I'll be in Korea and Japan, and you know, and learning how to say domo arigato and doitashimashite and all that business.
And do you get the same kick? I know you're going to say yes, but do you get the same kick, you know, appearing in Las Vegas and then the next week in Southend?
I don't mind. Las Vegas is exactly the same as playing anywhere in Southend. It's exactly the same. The only thing, it has a reputation of being the capital city of the entertainment city of the world, but it's exactly the same. I do the same show, and I get the same kick out of it.
Pays a bit more though, doesn't it?
So.
Michael Bolton originally performed in hard rock and heavy metal bands from the mid-70s to the mid-80s. Bolton's achievements include selling more than 75 million records, recording 8 top 10 albums and 2 number 1 singles on the Billboard charts, as well as winning 6 American Music Awards and 2 Grammy Awards. We met in a recording studio when he came to the UK to promote a new album in 2005-ish, but instead of talking about the new record, we somehow got on to golf, which he seemed much happier to be talking about, and he told me he took up the game relatively late on in life.
Most of my friends started when they were 12 years old. I don't know if you noticed that when you asked them.
Absolutely,
it's almost always 12. It's not 13, it's not 11 and a half. I started playing when I was 12. Most of the players I do play with my friends are pretty good golfers. And when when my career kicked in, the thought of carving out 4 or 5 hours of time to hit a little white ball somewhere remotely straight, hopefully, it was an impossibility. There's not that much time. I work too much for that. And then I was on vacation, and a friend of mine who's a film director, Barry Levinson, was on vacation at the same place. And he was a really interesting person to speak to, a really smart guy and creative, and he said, "We're going next door. We're playing golf. Do you want to join us?" And I played every other sport growing up, but golf. And I said, "Okay." And it was ugly. The golf swing was ugly, but I started hitting a few crisp ones, and I got hooked.
Yeah.
I came back to the States. All I wanted to do was play golf every day. Now, good news with my career, and this is where the time of your life, where maybe all that work does pay off and pay back, is that my shows are at night. So when I'm on tour, 2 years ago I did 70 shows in 4 months. I played about 90 rounds of golf.
Wow. You must be fairly good then.
I got good.
Yeah.
Okay, my handicap came down in the single digits for the first time in 8 years. But you have to realize that in the 8 years I've been playing, I've played as much golf as most people who have been playing since they were 12, because I was on a mission to catch up. And I had access, touring. I got to play with some great pros who just chipped away, taught me, how to work on my game. And the golf has been a calming factor for me. Although at moments, we've used many of the words you hear a lot out on the golf course. In general, there's kind of a zen to it to me, and it quiets me. But I can do that, and what I'm thinking is that I'd love to be able to play a round of golf, go home, go into the studio, work till my usual 3 or 4 in the morning, and let it go when I go out on the golf course, because you can't really think about anything when you're out there.
Michael Bolton. Now, when I was a radio presenter, I was very happy when I was able to combine my job with my favourite sport. One of the ways I did this was by presenting a whole 3-hour show whilst playing a round of golf. It was quite a technical feat, especially 20 years or so ago. I remember we set up a mobile unit on a golf buggy. We had erected a huge aerial on it, which relayed a signal to another box of tricks in the clubhouse, which in turn sent the signal back to the radio studio. And it worked pretty well. I don't think anyone else has played golf and presented a radio show at the same time. If you know different, please do let me know. I also did another golf-related feature called the Fantasy Golf Course. I went to 18 different golf courses and played their signature hole with their resident professional. It was a great way to play 18 great golf courses and get 18 golf lessons at the same time. But the best golf lesson I ever got was when I interviewed Bernard Gallacher, who played in 8 Ryder Cup matches, captained the European team in 1991, 93 and 95, and won 22 professional tournaments. We met when he opened a new driving range in Essex, and he was very gracious, and during and after the interview let me use his clubs to give me a few much-needed pointers to improve my game.
Oh yeah, I mean, just swinging. Swinging's really good for your game, but I think you've got to practice properly. I think one of the mistakes that people make is that they come to a driving range and try and hit the ball as far as they can all the time. Yeah. They just pull out the driver straight away and go straight into it, and that is really the first mistake. If you ever go to a pros tournament, even Tiger Woods and Greg Normans and Davis Love and Nick Faldo, they all start with a little wedge, and that's why these targets are only 50 yards and then 100 yards and 150. And so the idea would be to start with a short iron and build up and build up and build up to a big one. Otherwise, if you start with a driver, you lose your rhythm right away, and you're not warmed up. It can become quite demoralizing. So I think it's good if you use the driving range properly. There's no reason why it shouldn't improve your game altogether.
Yourself, what are you doing nowadays?
Well, I play on the seniors tour, and I do a few golf days, and I've got a few business interests here and there, and I've got enough to do.
It's not a bad life, is it?
No, I would always like to play a little bit better, though, because I've just come back from Barbados this morning. But playing on 2 seniors event, I didn't really play that well, so I've come back with my tail between my legs, and I need to practice a little bit more.
All right. Well, I'll never get this opportunity again. Could you just give me a bit of advice on my swing? Because I haven't played for about a year.
We'll let you use my clubs.
Oh, brilliant.
As long as you don't break them.
No. Well,
and we're going to start with a pitching wedge. That's it. Yeah, we'll run through the basics. You know, like if you hit a few balls first, I'll check your grip, then I'll check your aim, and I'll check your stance, and I'll check that your posture's right. Those are really the 4 basics in golf. So he's putting his left hand on first. That's good. His left hand looks okay. 2 knuckles to the left hand, right. So have a practice swing first. Have a few practice swings. Hit the ground with your practice swing. That's it. Hit the mat so that you reach the ground. That's it. That's good. Now just stand up a little bit taller so your posture's a bit better. Okay. That's good. Your grip's not too bad. The ball's in the middle of your stance, which is good for a pitching wedge. Now keep your head steady. There you go. Hooray! Lovely. But that was excellent. That's good. So you started with a wedge, and then you would want to build up to it. Very good.
I'm about the right age to join the seniors tour.
Oh, okay.
What do you think? Any chance?
I think you'd probably be able to beat me at the moment, but you wouldn't beat the rest of the field.
Bernard Gallacher, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Bernard Gallacher there. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Next time, we're going to go all foodie, when I'll be looking back at my very short-lived cookery career, hearing interviews with Delia Smith and the late Keith Floyd, and I'll be dropping into a cooking club at a junior school and helping them to make brioche. And it gets very messy.
What do you have to do with the eggs? Do they just go in whole like that?
No.
No?
You have to crack them.
Do you crack them?
Yeah.
Oh.
The yolk and the white comes out.
I didn't know that. I thought you just put them in whole. No wonder mine's been crunchy all these years. Oh, here we go. Have you cracked an egg before?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, go on. Show me how to do it then. Well done. One-handed.
That's next week in Tales from a Very Minor Celebrity.